uh, and I know you'll monitor any questions or queries.
Yeah.
Happy Sabbath, everyone, from the North England Conference. And today we are going to be doing African law. Now, interestingly enough, while I share the screen, here's a question for you guys. How many countries are in Africa? I just want to see who gets this one right.
Let's have a look on the chat. Anything on the chat yet? 58.
58. Wow. Okay. Let's have one more answer and then let's go right into this one.
55.
55. Okay, so pretty close, pretty close. I actually thought there were 56 countries, but upon further study, there's actually 54 countries. But
who got that?
Somebody got that, yeah.
But there's a but. But there are 56 sovereign states. Now, I was interested in what they meant by sovereign state. Apparently, as long as you have a certain border, one government, and that's it, a people, that you're called a country. So I'm not sure where the other two, why they aren't incorporated into countries, but you know what? When you do the rest of the honor, you'll find out. So we're doing African law. And as you can see, it's the nice Zulu shield with is it 3 sticks? One is a spear, the other is a knob carry. Not sure what the other one is, but we'll find out for you.
Tabani, are you there?
It looks like he has frozen.
I think he's frozen.
I think he is frozen.
I'm from Africa.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Tabani, we lost you for a moment there. I'm sorry. We didn't
really.
Yes. Yeah. So if you can just go back and start again for us, please.
Okay. Where did
from
I
just after you said about the countries and you give us some answers. So really.
Oh, okay.
So from when you to this slide.
This is where we were, wasn't it?
Yeah. So after this, just after this, yeah. We've done that one. That one's fine. You'd got that.
Okay. So we're doing the African law. Let me know again if the network drops out or something. So yeah, there's over 1,000 tribes in the whole of Africa, and they literally still are there. Some have modernized, but some are still holding on to their cultural values and traditions. But for our honor, we only need to know 15, and those 15, if you're from Africa, you can't include your own tribe. You got to find another 15. So just a little map. I like this map because it's got all the flags, the colorful flags of Africa. And I come from that little country there. That country is called Zimbabwe. And my town where I was born is somewhere there, if you can see the laser pointer, right over there. And I have had the pleasure of actually traveling pretty much this whole region. Right? And Pastor Dehan was saying he wants to come in and buy an island somewhere here one day so he can retire. So, you know, if you want to visit him, he'll be a sovereign state on his own. So let's go into our honor. So requirement one, as I said, you just need to know 15 tribes and where they are on the African continent, and something or a few things that are very distinct about them. So let's go through as many tribes as we can list. I've got the Akoli, the Amara, the Fula. The Akoli are from a country called South Sudan. The Amara from Ethiopia. The Fula from Nigeria and some of the surrounding countries, which is Guinea, Senegal. And there's quite a few countries around that area. I just put 3 on there. And then we also have the Igbo, which are predominantly in Nigeria. I think they're the biggest tribe in Nigeria. And then you come down to southern East Africa, where you have the Himba in Namibia. You've got the Maasai in Tanzania mainly, and Kenya. It's Tanzania. Then you've got the Oromo, who are literally found in Somalia and bits of Ethiopia. We've got the Shona tribe, which is in Zimbabwe. We've got the Tuareg, and they surround quite a few countries as well: Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and I think a bit of Cameroon as well, most of Central Africa. Then you have the Xhosa tribe, which is in South Africa. You also have the Yoruba, I think it's the second largest in Nigeria. And then you also have the Zulu tribe, which is in South Africa. Now, some of these you may have already heard or know about. And it's quite interesting how we tend to forget about, you know, things like that. When I was growing up, I used to love visiting the rural areas because that's where my dad's mom and dad used to live. And grandma always had stories for us, you know, and she would always make sure that you knew something about someone. It wasn't enough for you to just know your own family. You had to be able to relate. And if you were watching the Adventure Honors, you know, the more people you know, the easier it is to go and talk to them, therefore becoming a missionary. So I implore you, know as much as you can. And as I said, my grandfather used to love putting this thought in our heads: to know where you're going, know where you're coming from. So for most of us who come from Africa, it is an African proverb, you know, if you want to relate to as many people as you can, you got to be sure of who you are. And when they know you, because if you know who you are, it's easy then to say, hello, I know something that you would like to know. And that's your conversation starter: Jesus Christ, our only Redeemer. But let's go into our second part of the requirement. And we're supposed to say something about the tribes that we've listed at the top. So I'm going to concentrate on one of the tribes because of time. We can't go through all 15. And I chose the Xhosa tribe. Right? And you find them mostly in the eastern part of South Africa. So you have your Cape Towns and those surrounding areas. And they are the second largest tribe in South Africa. They are about 18% of the population, which would make them about 8 to 9 million. And they're very, very colorful and vibrant group of people. I'm sure you can see the lady in the picture. So many colors, so much. And she's actually wearing what they would call a traditional ceremonial attire, you know, with the hat going wide at the top, you know, and beadwork and pottery and decorations. That's mostly what their culture promotes. And then thing I love about the Xhosa as well is that they are a monotheistic kind of culture. They call God Utiko, right? So if you hear a few people with the clicking sound going Utiko, no, there's a word. That's African, or that's a Xhosa word for God. Now, Elder Helderberg, if you can tell me if anyone can tell us who's that man in the picture. Anyone can venture a guess to who that man is?
Oh, that's a very famous face there. So who can tell me? Oh, straight away, we've got Nelson Mandela. No question.
Nelson Mandela. Right? Okay, let's make it a bit more difficult, Natalie. Who can tell me what his first name is?
Tricky one there.
Oh, yes.
Nelson. Who knows?
Come on, got to be somebody that knows.
Come on, Pathfinders, don't let us down here. Counting on you. Oh, silence.
I'll give you a clue. It starts with an R.
Ooh. I wonder if anyone's Googling right now.
I can actually hear somebody down at the bottom shouting in our house. Okay.
Put us out of our misery. Oh, Rohit.
Yeah, I will.
Rohilila, I've got.
It's Rolihlahla. The Xhosa name is Rolihlahla. Yeah, well done to whoever got that one. And so something interesting about him, when he was young and they sent him to school, the teachers couldn't actually pronounce his name, so they changed it. They were like, okay, your name, we're just going to call you Nelson, so you just stick with that. And I suppose because it was during the apartheid time, if they gave you that name, that's what you pretty much used. But what I found out about him when I was doing some research is he actually comes from a royal lineage. He comes from royal lineage, right? He was the son of one of the Xhosa, we'll call it kingdom, part of the kingdom, the royal blood.
Wow.
Imagine that.
I
The
didn't
king
know that.
went on to become the president.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then so a little bit more about the Xhosa tribe. As you can see, they've got the most beautiful beadwork. You know, on your far right, you've got the headbands that you put those around your head. In the middle, you've got a couple who in the West we'd call this the engagement party. Right? But in this setting right now, the young man has just finished, or rather has sent a few cows over to the young lady's family as a part of a dowry. And he's sitting there with a big smile on his face and he's saying, you know what, I've got my bride. No one can stop me now. And then on the left, you know, you've got a bit more of their artwork and some of the things that they're famous for.
Beautiful.
If you, Natalie, this is where you come in.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so the Xhosa Bible, or rather the Bible, was translated into the Xhosa language in 1859. Would you believe that? 1859. Now, I've got a little bit of an extract for it, and I'll ask Natalie to read the English version, verse 1 and 2, and I will attempt to read verse 1 and 2 in Xhosa.
All right, okay, so I'll read the English. So it's John chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning.
Okay, let me read that in Xhosa. As you can see the little extract there. Ekuqaleni kungekadalwa wayeselekho ulizwi. Ulizwi lo wayekunye noThixo, naye ngokwakhe enguThixo. Yena wayekunye noThixo wasekuqaleni. Now, it took me a while just to get that, but it's fun to learn a new language. So I also challenge you, learn something, even how to greet people in the tribe that you're going to be studying. Imagine that you have 15 kind of greetings, because not all of them are the same, right? Moving on. I know some of you know that famous person. He's a Xhosa guy as well. I think he lives in America now. So as I was saying earlier on, the Xhosa are the second largest group in South Africa, and the language spoken there is called isiXhosa. And it's actually, you know, most of the Southern African languages, they have similar words. So it won't be very difficult if you come from that part of the world to understand what somebody else is saying.
That was very
Now,
that was beautifully read,
yep.
Buffy. That was lovely when you read it.
Wait, thank you. I'm a linguist. I like being a linguist. Now, here's another one. For most of you who have African parents, I know you've heard this one. Mind my singing, you know, I've got a beautiful voice, but Corona seems to have, you know, dulled it down. There's an African song that goes, Nkosi siyeleli Afrika, maluphakanyiswa udumo lwakho. If anyone has ever heard that, that is actually the national anthem for South Africa.
South Africa, yes, and you spoke.
Oh, yes. Now, what's even more interesting, Helderberg, is that was composed by a Xhosa preacher. His name was Enoch Somtonga, and that was in 1897. That hymn was so popular that Tanzania and Zambia, they sung the song. They adopted it as part of their national anthem. And then in Zimbabwe, when I was growing up until I think it was 1991, 92, we used to have it as our national anthem as well. Same with Namibia. So imagine that. The Xhosa people managed to spread that song all the way up, you know, to about Zambia. And I'll put the laser pointer. That's Zambia there. And that's that should be Angola. That's Namibia. So imagine all these countries adopted that song in one form or another. In Tanzania, which is that one, they actually sing it in Swahili. They still do it now. It's still their national anthem. So imagine if a tribe from down here, this is the eastern part of South Africa, a tribe from down here can have a beautiful song that will be the national anthem for all these countries up here. Imagine what you could do when you start spreading the word about God in Xhosa or in Zulu or in Tswana, because there's quite a lot of tribes.
Wonderful.
Right.
Somebody just on the chat, somebody says their parents sing that. So
oh, nice. Do we know where that person's from?
No, but if you can type it in the chat, that would be lovely.
Oh, please let me know. Please let me know. Which
Isn't
means my singing is kind of good, because if they heard that, that's pretty good.
Oh, Mr. Tabani. Isn't Pastor Ikuza from Tanzania?
Pastor Ikwisa is from Tanzania.
Yes, so he would know that then.
Oh,
So there we've got something else to chat to him about.
And I'm from South Africa, so I would know that.
Oh yes, only the Eastern Caribbean side, right?
My name is South African. Seriously, my name is South African.
I believe you, Helderberg. I believe you. Right, now let's come to my favorite part.
That person is from Zimbabwe.
It's from Zimbabwe. Oh, well, you know what? Siyalamukela. Tinomgamchirai. See, I told you I was a linguist, so I'm using the Zimbabwean languages to greet them. Moving on, the Xhosa tribe, they most of their diet is inyama, which is beef, or inyama yegusha, which is lamb. And then for the young person who said his parents are from Zimbabwe, he would know this umpogoko, which is like maize meal, and they crush it into a fine powder, not too fine. And then you put it in cold water and you mix it, and then you put some hot water while it's on the stove and you let it simmer, and it creates like a porridge. Similar texture to oats, but not as grainy. It's very fine, delicious, absolutely delicious. And then at weddings in Africa, you normally have umngushu, which is pretty much the maize meal, with the what you call the fiber taken off. You know the casing, the maize meal little casings, they're taken off, and you soak it for like a whole day. The following day you boil it, and I'm telling you, that is African rice, best thing ever. And they also have things like amatanga pumpkins, amasi. Now in the Xhosa culture, when ladies make amasi, mums and aunts and when they're teaching it, that is got to be like the best milk you will ever have. You know, I think the equivalent this side would be almost similar to natural yogurt. But it is something else. It is absolutely delicious. You know, I would even venture to say, you know, contact Natalie to get my email address, and then, you know, we can talk and I'll get you some of that stuff. But if your parents are from Africa, they would know this as well. Okay, so I just touched on the Xhosa tribe, and remember, you've got to have 15 of them. So those are just some of the distinctive things about them. So you can go and pick up the Zulu tribe, you know, and something distinctive about them. And the Zulu tribe is probably going to be one of the easiest, because if you've ever heard the name Shaka Zulu, Shaka Zulu was the king of the Zulus in the mid 19th century, going on into the late 19th century. So we're talking about 1850, 60 something, going on into maybe 1900s. He was a fearsome king. Nobody would challenge him, because he was just that. He was the man, as they would say. He was one of the best military rulers. He could think ahead of time and defend his people. Of course, there are some stories that will paint him in a different kind of light, but I suppose it's who you quote for your sources. But for our honor, you just need to mention the 15 and just a few distinctive things about them. Okay, are there any questions so far?
Can't see anything at the moment.
No, I think we're okay to go ahead.
Okay, so now let's go to the second part of our requirement. We've got 2A, we've just done 2A. We're going into 2B. Now find out detailed information on a tribe that you select. Now, if you belong to a certain tribe, or if your parents belong to, let's say, the Ndebele tribe, you cannot use them just to expand on these following 9 points. You've got to pick somebody else, right? I stayed away from any of the Zimbabwean tribes because it would have been too easy for me and I wouldn't have learned anything. But I'm going to concentrate on the Maasai. Now, if anyone knows anything about the Maasai, you would know that these guys are the most fearsome hunters and warriors in Africa. They defend their livestock, they defend their families from lions from a young age. You know, as Natalie was saying earlier on, you know, pretty much what David did when he was younger. The Maasai, they're well known for being fearsome warriors, including the whole of Africa. As you can see, I've got a couple of Maasai warriors there and a warrior in training right there, right? And he wants to obviously be one of these guys at some point when he grows up. So we're going to look at the 9 points that we need to expand on them, which is their eating habits, initiation ceremonies. The third one says witch doctors, but I've changed that. I'm going to call them shamans because for me, witch doctors sounds slightly negative because they don't actually do any witching or anything like that. And then 4, you got living and worship conditions. 5 is education. 6 is burial. 7, money. 8, dress and industry. So let's start with the eating habits of the Maasai. Right. Traditionally, they eat, their diet is mainly meat and milk. Some sources quote that they drink cattle blood, but I couldn't find anything. I couldn't even find it on this study that I quoted here. But predominantly, it's cow's milk, amasi, like the Xhosa tribe, and maize meal. But the milk is either you drink it fresh. So imagine getting milk fresh before they pasteurize it or do whatever they do with it. And oh man, it's taking me back to the days when I was taught how to do that. Or you can put the milk in sweet tea. Now, however, in the Ndebele tribe, if they ever offer you milk straight from the cow, straight, unpasteurized or anything like that, you are pretty much going to spend the whole day going to the toilet because it has a laxative property, because it's that pure, it literally clean out your stomach. So it's good if you want to clean out your stomach, but it won't make you ill, just make you go to the toilet a lot. Back to the Maasai now. Just thought I'd drop that little nugget in there. They use the porridge, like I said, from the Xhosa tribe. Only they can make it even thicker by adding a bit more of the ground maize meal, and then they eat it like as a solid, dumpling. Helderberg, you'd understand that one, right?
Yes, I know about dumplings. I love them.
Oh yeah. Only this our one is it'll be that thick and delicious stuff. And if you're Zimbabwean, it's pretty much what mom and dad like to eat, or Southern African actually. But interesting fact about the Maasai, even though meat is part of their diet, they don't usually eat that much meat. The livestock are literally kept as a status kind of thing, and mainly for milk. So I wouldn't say it's a staple food for them. But from milk you get things like butter, and that's important when making infant foods, because remember, babies lose a lot of heat, so they burn up a lot of fat. So they need something rich just to keep them okay. As I said, blood is really drunk. I couldn't find anywhere that says they still do that. Initiation ceremonies. Okay, now the young men, when they are of a certain age, about 12 to 25, and this happens every 15 years, right? There's a ritual that they have to go through. But before this ritual, as you're growing up until you get to the age of 12, it's all about courage. Now, Helderberg, I'm going to stand up and move back a little. Tell me if I'm in the frame, okay?
Hang on, let's have a look.
Okay, am I in the frame? Crouch down a little bit.
Yes, you are in frame, just about, yes.
Okay, just about. Right. No, there's a part I've highlighted that says ritual beatings to test courage and
Oh,
endurance.
right, yes.
Yeah, it's not about somebody bringing you over and saying, come over here on your lap and they give you a little smack. No, no, no. These guys are taught to be brave and fearsome. So they use what is called sticks. They've got training sticks. And with these sticks, you're literally fighting an older guy, you know? So I remember how I was taught, right? Left hand, if you're right-handed, it's got to be your shield. So you'll hold that stick on about halfway, and your striking one is your dominant hand, which is your right hand. So if you're left-handed, it's the other way around. So it's literally one of those where, you know, you're trying to get the other guy. So obviously, because some of the warriors are older, they know how to circumvent your strengths and your weaknesses, and then that's where the beatings come in. But it's all to teach you how to defend, how to be strong, and the more strikes you get, the less you feel the pain. So it's not something scary. It's actually something fun, and all the little boys look forward to those kind of days. And then another part of the initiation ceremony is when you come of age, which is between 12 and 25, usually before you get to 15, you get circumcised. And in the circumcision, the thing that they look for the most is for you not to flinch. So you can't go, ow, that's painful. No, no, no. You've got to be a warrior, you know, and just take it. So it's done without any kind of anesthetic, just to show how brave these boys are. So remember, as the sticks are going, you know, all those blows, it'll keep them, you know, it heightens, or rather it increases your pain barrier. So part of that, as soon as you're circumcised, you go and stay in a certain part of the village. It's called the Manyata. And it's usually built by mothers because they know their children are about to come of age. But as soon as you've done that, it doesn't stop there. It's just the beginning of your warrior training, right? So further rites of passage come along as you get older, because the status that you'll be looking for is a senior warrior, right? And that there's a big ceremony that happens. Most of the villages come together, and it's called a Unoto ceremony, which just means coming of age, you know, and that's where you get your warrior status. Similar things happen for the ladies as well. In order for you to reach a certain stage, you've got to be able to have been learned how to do this or how to handle that. There's lots and lots of things. I remember when I was in Africa a few years ago, they tried to teach me how to balance a bucket of water on my head, you know, because some of the rural areas, there's not that much water. So you got to go down to the river or the borehole. You got to carry a big 50-liter or 25-liter tub on your head. Yeah, it is not that easy. It really is not that easy. And I can think of one or two people right now who find that very difficult. But it is, once you crack it, beautiful thing. It's another kind of ritual that they do. That's done mostly by the younger kids and younger girls. So let's move on to the shamans. As I said, even though the requirement says witch doctor to me makes it sound like, you know, there's a lot of things that happen, you know, dark or whatever things. What I found out, as again from studying for myself, is that there is a guy or a lady in the village called the Laban. And that Laban is pretty much the GP. That's it. He's the GP. So if you've got a little cold or sniffle or something, that's the person that you go and see. And, you know, herbs, spices here, and that's it. You're done. Of course, back in the day, they used to say they could read your hand or tell you that it's going to rain next week on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. No, actually at 3:02. But again, you know, those are just myths. What I found out, they're just literally the village doctor. Living and worship conditions. Helderberg or Natalie, let me know if there's any questions that come up, because I can't see any. Right
Nothing's
now,
come up at the moment.
If there
okay.
are.
There
Are they?
Have you seen any?
No, we're good. You can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, historically, the Maasai were a nomadic kind of people. By that we mean they would live in one certain area for a little while, usually in spring and summer, and then when it starts getting colder, they'd move further south or further north, and pitch their tents over there, and their huts and so forth, which are called Inka Jijik. I like saying that word, Inka Jijik. You know, that literally just means your house. You know, so I'm going over there to my Inka Jijik. You know, that's where I live. But what I love about it the most is if you look at the materials that make up the houses just over here, it's just mud, sticks, grass, cow dung, of course, human urine, which I find pretty odd, and ash. In Zimbabwe, in the rural areas, they use uh, livestock urine mostly, especially in the kitchens, because for some reason I think it's got a property that keeps the floor really dry. I'll find out at some point, but yeah, those are the materials, and all these things are sourced from the land. So you don't have your brick factories, you don't have pollution when somebody's making bricks. You know, these guys literally go to the river or wherever, get the water, make some mud, shape it into bricks or whatever they need, and they build their houses just like that. Doesn't cost them a thing. And then where they worship, or rather where they kind of, you would say, is their worship area or their bedrooms, like, is the smaller huts, and they call those inkaji or enkaji, right? And something interesting about that, the smaller livestock actually stay inside these inkajis, right? Whereas the bigger livestock, the cows, the goats and so forth, they stay in the middle of the enclosure. So if you fence your area with an enkang, which is mainly made of thorny thistles, thorny branches and so forth, and just fence your area out. And then at night, you go get your cattle and your goats and your donkeys and your sheep. You bring them in, and then there's a little area in the middle, obviously with sticks, like an enclosure as well. They call that a kraal, or corral, and that's where the cows stay for the night. So you have your buildings surrounding that area, so no wild animals can come and try and attack them. It's a way of keeping them safe. Religion, as I said, the Maasai as well, just like the Xhosa tribe, they are monotheistic, which means one God, literally, and they call God Enkai or Engai, and that's pretty much it. Lately, you'll find that most Maasai are now Christian, and to a lesser extent, some are now Muslim. So you're beginning to get the word of God reaching almost all the far corners of Africa, as it were. So when we learn all this, we'll be able to deliver the message even better. It won't be long before the three angels' message is shouted from every rooftop or every treetop. Education. The Maasai are one of the only tribes who did not take their children to Western schools. Most of the African continent was, I would say, colonized by a lot of the European countries, mostly Portugal, Spain, England. Is there another one? Mostly those three. They're the countries that colonized a lot of Africa. And with that, they brought education, you know, come to class, learn this and that. But the Maasai, they went into something called passive resistance just to preserve their culture, because at some point somebody must have realized that the more I learn to read and write and do all these other things, then I'm beginning to forget that, you know, when I reach a certain age, I'm going to have to be a warrior, you know, I'm going to have to be outside. So they tried that out. But as the world kept moving forward and forward, the Maasai found themselves in a very awkward position in the world. You know, if you can't read or write, a lot of people will take advantage of you that way. So what happened is the government came up with this program called the Maasai Education Discovery. Well, it was not the government, sorry, a non-governmental organization. You have a lot of those in Africa as well. They're just people who just want to help. So they realize, okay, if you guys don't want to erode your culture, but there's some things that you need to equip yourselves with. So now they start teaching the Maasai in their way, traditional ways, how to read and write, so that nobody can take advantage of them, because that's what happened in the early 1940s and 50s when the Europeans came into Africa. People were told, okay, if you walk that way for one day, walk that way for one day, come back, that's your land. And no one could argue with you because they didn't have the title deeds and things like that. You just knew that's where you go and grow your plants. That's what you look after, and everyone lived in harmony. But as I said, the world became industrialized, resources were needed. So now they can read, they can write, and they still live the way that they were brought up, the way that has always been part of their culture. Most of the tribes are like that as well. Now, an interesting thing about burial, the Maasai don't believe in burying people. Unless you're a chief or somebody great in their society. If you die or if you pass away, they'll literally take you to a far side of just outside the village, and then they'll leave you there with the hyenas and the jackals and the scavenging animals just to pick at your bones. I found that quite interesting, and the reason is they believe that putting the human body into the ground somehow made the soil harmful in a way. Not sure how. As I said, I've just piqued the interest in knowing all this, and I'm going to find out. So when you pick your tribe to concentrate on, you'll find that there are things that are very interesting, and it'll make you want to read even more. And that's what we encourage: studying, and studying. Paul tells us that we should study to show ourselves approved, studying the Bible. And this is another way of learning how to get more interested in reading. Money, very interesting one. They do not have the concept of currency. So even if you went with $100 and you offered them, it's just a piece of paper, small piece of paper actually. Their transactions are actually done in cattle. So when the young man wants to marry the young lady's family will say, okay, we want 4 cows or 4 cattle. And then young man's side will be like, 4 cows is a bit much. Can we talk about maybe 3? And the other guys will be like, no, 3.5 then. So yeah, I'll give you 3.5. That's how they trade. The dress. Oh, I found quite a lot of things on dress because they're a colorful society, but the most favored color that they have is red. Now, if you see the young men in black, it's because they're going through the rite of passage, and that's usually about 4 to 8 months. That's when they'll be wearing black, like the young man that I showed you earlier on. After that, they become, they go to the other colors. And what I found interesting is the warriors don't mind wearing flowers and pink. So if there's any guys on here that think pink is a girl's color, nah, you need to go to the Maasai. They'll show you a thing or two. Again, with the dress, there's something called a shuka. I hope I pronounced that right to my Swahili friends. A shuka, which is literally, I'm not sure what we call it, but it's like a big wraparound. Natalie, you could help me with that. Is it a toga, like toga or sarong or something like that? And that's what they mainly wear. That's their day-to-day. It's not a traditional kind of dress. And as I told you, pink, even with flowers, is not shunned by the warriors. They also have, the toga would be the kanga, right? Which is
I don't know.
Okay, the toga would be the kanga, which is literally something that you wrap around yourself and you just throw it over your shoulder. And that's what you pretty much will find as the common dress. Industry. Now, as I said earlier, their currency or their money is cattle. So the more cows you have, obviously, the more wealthy you are. But it doesn't work like that in Maasai culture. So if you have a lot of cows, and you only have a few children, maybe let's say 2, you're not regarded as a rich man. You're actually considered to be very poor. Or if you have a lot of children and a few cows, you're very poor. You've got to have a balance of both. So if you've got lots of cows, lots of children, that man is wealthy. Interesting, isn't it? So you can't have, in Western society, if you equate it, You can't have £1 million in the bank and one child and say you're rich. Doesn't work like that with them. You've got to have £1 million in your bank account and maybe 7 or 8 children. Then you're a rich person. So think about that.
It's interesting.
Then our location. Sorry.
Sorry, Tabani. That's when they talk about people in the Bible as well. They talked about the number of cattle that they had, and also talked about their children. So
Children.
Jacob as well, and Abraham and all the founding fathers. They talked about how many cattle, how many sheep, how many and how many wives and children that they had as well. So it's quite biblical.
It was coming at the end of my story, but thank you, Natalie. I'll just skip that one. So you'll notice that a lot of the things that are tradition to most of the tribes, you will also find in the Bible, right? And I found that very interesting because, as Natalie said, I wasn't going to use Jacob. I was going to use Lot. I was going to use Job, but there you go. The more children you have and the more livestock and property you have, you were regarded as a very wealthy person, which was good. In the case of Job, he wasn't rich unto himself only. He obviously spread the word as he knew it. He never kept things for himself. That's why Satan accused him of being God's favorite. He was an evangelist. So know this, that when you become wealthy as well, you got to share. God blesses you so that you bless others. Location, as I said in the beginning, the Maasai are mostly found in Kenya and the northern parts of Tanzania. And it's their distinctive dress and customs that make you will just see them. You will know them. They're very friendly people. They welcome journalists into their camps and so forth. They even prepare places like a private place because they know Europeans like privacy, or rather anyone who's not Maasai. They're hospitable people, and taking it from a biblical standpoint as well. If you look at Abraham, when people passing by his house, he would, go out there and greet them and like, no, you can't just go, come in, wash your feet and, have something to eat, and be comfortable, and then you can go on your way. So we also need to be like that. We shouldn't only help people that we know can help us, right? That's not how God intended it to be. We're supposed to help people, especially knowing that they will never be able to do for us. And that's the Maasai. They will always be that hospitable, and they don't expect anything in return because a visitor to them is a good thing. The latest census, which was done in 2019, and this was in Kenya only, has the Maasai almost a number that almost at 1,200,000. I'm not sure on the Tanzanian side. I couldn't find a census that was done just to number how many Maasai they have, but I would boldly say maybe almost 2 million altogether. And as I said, they're pretty nomadic. So when one area becomes too cold or no longer has grass, they'll move on to the next area.
Sorry,
yes.
There's a question in there. I don't know whether it's real. It says, can anyone become a Maasai like from another country?
Well, there was a singer called Johnny Clegg, South African white guy, and he wanted to know a lot more about the Maasai. I can't remember when it was, but he went over to Kenya and he was welcomed in one of the villages. I can't remember how long he stayed, but I remember clips of him being taught how to fight using the sticks, and how to milk a cow and so forth. Whether he became an honorary member of that tribe or something else, I'm not sure. So, interesting. I wouldn't even know where to go to find out.
I suppose it's.
I hope that answers it. You can visit.
Yeah, but I suppose that would be that. It's like saying, can I become a Welshman? Because if I'm not from Wales, I think for me the answer would that be no, because it's not. It's like asking, can I become you can become an American citizen, for instance, or a British citizen, yeah, even though you may not have been born here. I'm presuming, I suppose, if you wanted to be a Maasai, you could go and ask if you could become a citizen. But apart from that, I would say you can probably go and learn, like you said, about it, can't you?
Yeah,
you can probably go.
you
You can probably go there and learn their ways, learn their customs. But as to becoming an actual Maasai,
Well,
I think that's.
the question was that from a young man or a young lady?
It's from a young Claudine.
Lady.
A lady. It was a young lady.
It was a young lady. Okay,
Yeah.
I suppose then she would have to do the rite of passage as well. You know, the knowing how to build a house, knowing how to milk a cow. Is that something that you're willing to do? Because I'm sure you can become an honorary member.
They
I'm
might
sure.
be able to adopt you into their tribe, mightn't they?
Yeah.
They do.
Yes.
They would do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as I gave the example of Johnny Clegg, he was one of the only famous people or famous person that I know went to live with them for quite a while. I will find out, and then when we upload the video and everything, I'll put a link to say if you can or cannot be.
Yeah. Okay.
Now every African young man's favorite. Or no, every African young child, sorry. Every African young child, if you ever had a grandma, and this is the entire continent of Africa, grandmothers had so many stories, mostly about your parents, because parents were naughty once upon a time, but it was the stories that we used to sit around and listen to, and not around a campfire in a lounge with a big TV in the background and so forth. So don't picture a bonfire or anything like that. But our grandma used to come and visit us in the city a lot of the time. And every time she came, we knew there was a story, and one of the stories, one of the requirements is for you to be able to tell a African folk story, right? Not, there's this guy called William Wright. He built a plane and it flew. Nah. Not that. An African folk story. And most of them are based around animals to bring out the moral of the story. But I'll tell you one, and hopefully you'll get the moral of the story. Now, many of you might know this story, so just bear with me, and hopefully you haven't heard the African meaning that we were taught. Right, there was an old farmer who picked up an eagle egg in his walks. So he put it with his chickens, and the eggs soon hatched. Now, the young eagle grew up with all the other chickens, and whatever they did, every single thing the eagle did too. He thought he was a chicken just like them. Now, since chickens couldn't fly or could just fly a short distance, that's what the eagle learned as well. He learned just to fly a short distance, and that was enough. Because remember why? He thought he was just a chicken. He thought that was what he was supposed to do, so that's what he could do. And that's what he thought he could do. That's only pretty much what he thought he could do. As a consequence to that, that's all he was able to do. Right? Remember, living with chickens, thinking like chickens, then you think, I'm a chicken. One day, he saw an eagle flying, soaring high up in the sky. And he was very impressed. So he asked, who's that? And he looked at the hens around him, and the hens just replied, oh, that's just an eagle. That is the king of all birds. He belongs to the sky, and we belong to the earth. We are just chickens, they said. So the eagle lived and died as a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. Helderberg, if you could read that verse.
Okay. Okay, let me just bring it up. And that is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 reads, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Right now, from that story that we just heard, no matter what kind of situation you were brought up in, no matter what limitations you were told you could have, no matter how much somebody says this is all you can do, right? It's time to get rid of that, right? Now, you don't want to live thinking that you're a chicken when you know you're an eagle. Christ tells us that, Paul tells us that we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, right? We are kings and queens. So as a king and a queen, we need to act and live like it, right? We need to know that we have God on our side all the time, which makes our potential limitless, absolutely limitless. That's why we know we can soar as high as an eagle and not even worry about anything. We're supposed to be all that we are meant to be, a part of that royal priesthood. Now we are pathfinders and we are soldiers of Jesus Christ. Nothing can surpass that. Right? So the moral of that story was, just because somebody tells you that's all you can do, it doesn't mean that's all you can do. With Jesus on your side, you can do absolutely everything. So the eagle is meant to soar, just like the Pathfinder is meant to lead. Then we'll just close with just a few things that I found out about the many tribes that we have. We'll start with the Maasai. The Maasai, if you see a young man or a young lady wearing that around their neck, it means they are about to get married or have just gotten married. So that's just a wedding necklace. And then the Zulu warriors, you see, Zulu warrior always had three things: a shield, knob carry, which is that little round thing on there. That is it's actually a stick, comes down there, and it's always got that little round shape. And then always a spear as well. Right? That's the Zulu warrior shield. You have the Xhosa tribe, that is a bag. You can keep stuff in there. Most of the men that used to have this back in the day, it would be a tobacco bag, or some sort of nuts that they would keep in there. And that is part of the traditional wear. It's just like a cape that comes across there, but all these are beads. So you can make them into a plain color like you can see on here, or you can make them into as many colors as you can. I don't know how they paint their beads or how they find them, but once it's all done, it is absolutely beautiful. We have the Shona tribe from Zimbabwe. They are stone sculpturists. They're very good at making, as you can see, a face of a man, I suppose. Well, yeah, he's got a beard, so yeah, it's a man. But interestingly enough, the Shona tribe, they're musicians as well. You get instruments like the marimba or the mbira, and it's just a joy to play. It's an African piano. That's what I'll call it. And then the Akoli tribe, they use these as musical rattles. Now, how they get the stones or the seeds inside this, I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to find out how it's actually made, but only the village elders made these because there's some mystery behind it, and it never breaks. Once it's made, it's made. And then you have the Amara, who have a cowrie shell basket. So the bigger the basket, the more stuff you can stow in there. But interestingly, they are not a coastal tribe, but most of their designs have got shells. So that's interesting. I wonder where they get them, because I looked around that area. There are not that many rivers or, I'm sorry, dams or anything like that. So another mystery. One that I had to show you was the fuller ceremonial hat. Now, the fuller ceremonial hat, anyone can make it, but the feathers have to come from a specific bird. So I'll let you try and find out where it is. And trust me, Google's not going to tell you, but you can find it. Have at it. So it's a ceremonial hat. And then the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, they make wooden face masks, and they can literally make, they can either make the face mask look like you, or can be something very different. But all of them have a certain kind of headwear, or rather hair, that signifies the ceremony that you'll be going to. So it's quite interesting. And then the Himba tribe. The Himba tribe are known for their intricate finger work, right? If you look closely, those are metal beads, and that's gold, and that's a shell. Now, how all that comes together is wow. And they've got some leather straps on there. I wish I could have taken a bigger image so you can see. But once made, it won't break. It won't lose its shape. It won't change into a different color or anything. It literally stays as beautiful as it was made the first day. Obviously, you got to look after it. Then now you'll have the Oromo tribe, and that is a battle shield or fighting shield. I couldn't see the picture behind to see what kind of straps or how you hold it, but it's quite big. And you can find this one at the British Museum of Arts, Natural Arts and History. Another tribe that I looked at was the Tuareg from Southern Sudan, and those are 10 poles. So you see, whenever we go camping, we use those little metal ones. Imagine if you had one of these, your tent would be like, you'd pass inspection easy, easy. And they make their own tent poles, and each family has its own design. That's why you see many different kinds of designs. So that's just a few things on African tribes, the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria. And I lost my notes. I was going to tell you how long it takes to make that crown. And it's a ceremonial crown. It's quite beautiful. If you go on YouTube, I'm sure you can find a video where you can see how it's made from beginning to end and how all the beads come together. And that's pretty much it on the African law honor.